Orlando.
Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone. Welcome to the OZone.
The voice of massive Magic fans.
Welcome back to another episode of the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans. In the virtual studio today, we have Justin.
Yo.
Al.
What's going on?
Myself, Anthony, and we are coming off a 2-game losing streak against the Pacers and against the Raptors. Super, super tough. But before we get into the games, Al, you were a virtual fan for the Pacers game, right?
Actually, for the game against the Kings.
The Kings game. So sorry, the Kings game.
Yes.
How was that experience?
Man, it was fun. It was weird, but I would say it's fun. So number one, you have the live game feed, so you're actually now watching a few seconds behind, like on TV. So that was kind of fun to watch the game and know what's happening at the moment. And then the best part too is on the actual crowd, they had like the hype team from the Magic games. They had two individuals that are part of that team that kept hyping us up. So that was kind of cool. Throughout the whole game, it kind of felt like, hey, we have to keep a good momentum going. We have to hype the team up. And it was a great game to do so. We were spanking the Kings by 20 plus points the whole game. So that was fun.
So what do you mean? Like there was like another square with all of them there trying to hype everyone up?
So think about it like you're in the stands. So you have about 5 rows of fans that are virtually in that section with you. Mm-hmm. So imagine me, you, and Justin, 3 seats. Behind us, it would have been, let's say, Ariel, Whit, and Elise, and so forth. So there was about 20 people in my room in those stands that I was in. And we can talk to each other. We can scream. And, if a good play happens, we can scream and cheer on the team. And then during timeouts, we can talk to each other, play trivia, whatever it was. So that was kind of cool. But the best part really was before the game. It was a Magic home game. So we got to do like the starting lineup and the player introductions and all that good stuff. So it truly kind of felt like being at Amway, but not really, in a different way. But they really did a great job making it seem like, hey, we really want you to feel like you're there, you're supporting the team. And like I said, timeouts, anything like that, really making sure that we had something to do, which was, again, playing trivia, doing giveaways. So that was really, really fun.
Because the Lakers game, I saw that Lil Wayne was trying to high five like a virtual person on the right side of him. So are you able to see who you're sitting next to? Yes,
you can. So let's say if in my group, there would have been, I don't know, a famous person, whatever, you can definitely see who's in that room with you. So think about it like being in a group chat with a bunch of people. That's kind of how it feels. And you're sitting legit on seats. Like they have a background effect where you're in a seat sitting like you see it on TV. So again, it's not perfect by any means, but I think what they're trying to do is make sure that we're, number one, supporting the team, and number two, feeling like we are part of, that what's going on the floor. So it was a really fun experience.
Yeah, like I was watching. It was a highlight that popped up on my Instagram feed, and bro, the exact same the cardboard from the MLB. So when they hit a home run, hit one of the cardboards, knocked it down. And I'm looking at it, I'm just like, man, the whole cardboard. I know we talked about it last episode, but the whole cardboard thing is so whack. And I know that it'd be really difficult in the stadiums to kind of replicate that. But again, hats off to the NBA for coming up with a way, because as a viewer at home watching it, to me it still looks pretty dope. Like it looks like there's actual fans like watching. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It took time. It took time to get used to it, because at first I think the virtual board kind of stood out. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, this is kind of weird. But I think the fact that they did that, where there's a live feed for the fans to watch while the game is happening, makes it so the reactions aren't delayed and everything is happening while, it's happening. So, the fans' reaction is happening while the game is happening, and I think that gives it a different level of like realness.
Yeah. And what they're saying is, I'm not sure if it's true or not, it's that when you, let's say, scream something or whatever, the players can actually hear you in the arena. I'm not sure how real that is, because I know they have kind of fake noise going on. They have music playing. So, but again, if that is true, that is kind of cool, because they usually put you right behind the bench or behind the basket of your home team. So let's say the Magic in this case. And I believe my section was right behind their bench. So, something nice happened in the game, you're screaming, whatever, I guess them hearing you, it's a cool experience. But again, not sure if that's really true or not. but it would be pretty cool.
Do you know by any chance how many like people are allowed in, or how many does it give you like a count of how many fans are in there?
Yeah, so usually like a real game, usually at the beginning of the game, people are not quite there, or they're still kind of getting their technology to work. They tell you to be there about 30 minutes before the game. Most people don't do that. Like in real games, they get there after tip-off. So you'll see pretty much when the games start, a lot of empty seats. But as the game gets going, it gets more full. But yeah, it's about 20 people per section, I think it is.
Okay.
So you multiply that times what, 4 or 5 screens they have? So it's about maybe 50, 75 fans they allowed to be on this.
Okay. And then lastly, for that experience, do you hear the fans? Like, do you hear the other
Yes.
fans that are in with you?
Yeah, you can talk to each other. You can, like Ant said, you can high five each other in a way. You can kind of make the sign you're high fiving someone. But yeah, you can talk to each other in timeouts. You can kind of talk about everything that's going on during the game.
Al, you messed up for not wearing a chicken suit or a banana suit because they were getting all the attention.
Funny you're saying that. So I told my wife that I'm like, hey, if I get invited again, I'm gonna do something silly because again, that's what gets attention on TV. Even dogs, I guess people are bringing dogs now and they're getting all the attention. So I have a dog. I can bring my dog to the game.
You know, I will say, out of all of the virtual fans, I've seen Shaq make appearances on various teams' virtual boards. He was even on the Suns today. So I would expect him to be on an Orlando game at some point. Shaq, show Orlando some love, please.
He should.
And Shaq don't want nothing to do with the Magic. Man, he was around the organization when we honored him and gave him a Hall of Fame, and he was doing the whole This Magic Moment documentary, and then that was it. Dude was out.
That's it.
But so we're 4 games in, right? So we got 4 more games left of the kind of finishing out the season, as long as we kind of, win enough games to where we avoid the play-in tournament. And so playoffs is around the corner. And right now we have a contest going on to kind of get, one lucky fan prepared for the playoffs where they can really win a jersey of their choice from NBA.com that we are giving out. You can choose the player. You can choose the jersey. Al, do you want to give a little details of how that's working?
Yeah, so pretty much we've posted it all over social media, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Facebook. It's really everywhere. So like you mentioned, the whole goal behind it is, hey, the playoffs are around the corner. We want to have our fans showing support for the Magic. And what better way to do so? Also, hard times out there going on right now. We know a lot of people right now are not working. There's a lot of stuff going on. So just to add a little bit of fun to our Magic fans and a little reward for doing our contest, it is that free jersey. Any color, any style, any player. So if you haven't heard about it, go to our social media accounts, Instagram, Twitter, and find out more about it. Pretty simple. It's a few steps we're asking you to do as a listener. It's simply reply to our post with tagging 3 friends that are also Magic fans, hopefully. Follow our pages in social media. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. We have the link on our page on Instagram. We also have it on Twitter within the post. And finally, reply or send us proof of that comment being placed on Apple Podcast. That's what guarantees your spot in the contest. I've seen many fans that have replied, followed us, but haven't done that piece of it. So I'm reaching out to them individually to take care of it. And then that's it. We'll be picking a winner next week. Actually, good idea. We can record it live next week as you're recording who that winner will be. And we'll announce it again on social media next week. And then again, we'll reach out to them, ask the player they want, the color they want, and go from there. And we'll be ready for the playoffs at that point.
Also, you can, if you don't follow us on social media, where you can find that contest to get it done is on Instagram at the OZone Pod. Also, Orlando Magic HQ and the Zone BB. So any of those ats you can go to and enter the contest. Win yourself a jersey and root the Magic on during the playoffs, because regardless of this 2-game losing streak, we are still going to make the playoffs, and we need all the fan engagement we can get.
Yeah, and if you do not win, do not get discouraged. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback from this contest, so definitely be on the lookout for the next one, because I'm sure we'll be doing more for sure.
Oh, yeah,
but
for sure.
With that being said, if you were the winner, right, if you can win one free Magic jersey of your choice, which jersey would it be and which player would you get?
Ooh, I'm going to go old school just because I don't have one. and that would be Penny Hardaway, blue pinstripes, Orlando Magic jersey.
Ooh, Mitchell and Ness, you're dropping about like what, 250, 300 for that jersey?
Hey, I was sold this any jersey, right?
Okay, not bad.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. That's a good question. I would probably stay new, and just get an Evan Fournier jersey. But
No.
Of course
Yeah.
you would.
yeah,
Fanboy.
that's my guy. That's my guy. He signed one for me. I'll get this one signed too. Hang him up in my house, and we be living happy.
Yeah, so right now I got a T-Mac jersey. I got about 2 Folds jerseys. I have the City Edition. I got the Orange City Edition. I got a Mo Bamba from last year's City Editions with the stars. I got a couple throwbacks, but the one that I really don't have any of our modern pinstripes. Like, I'm a big fan of the black jersey with the blue pinstripes, and I'll probably get a JI jersey, 100%.
Yes.
Gotta support my boy.
I'll be honest. If we ever do another jersey giveaway, we could just go into Ant's closet and get one of those to give out since he has so many.
Yo, not for nothing, man. All my jerseys are large, and through this quarantine, the large aren't fitting me the same, man. So we might just have to. But let's talk about the games this past week. All right, so we obviously started off rocking in the bubble with a win against the Nets, 128-118. Took another win against the Kings, 132-116. Unfortunately, this was a game that Jonathan was injured, and that's obviously the game that you were a part of through your virtual experience. I kind of feel like Stan Van Gundy kind of jinxed us a little bit. He went on Twitter to say that, man, keep an eye on the teams that are undefeated. Name dropped the Magic in there. Shout out to Stan Van Gundy, and then it just kind of went downhill from there. The minute we lost J.I., it was kind of like the whole entire team. Like, you can see them afterwards. Like, even when we were up by like 30, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a win afterwards. We were definitely, in my opinion, the losers of that game, just because we already got so used to Jonathan Isaac playing, and what he brings to the team, the level of defensive aggressiveness this guy has. Like, he really does change the dynamic on both ends of the floor for us. And it seems like the minute that we lost him, it just changed completely. That took us, it really hurt our second unit, because he was kind of leading that with Markelle Fultz. We took a hard loss against the Pacers, 120-109, which lost another player, MCW, injured. And then a loss against the Raptors, 109-99. And this is the same game where Aaron Gordon got injured off of a drive to the basket, got hit in the air when he was trying to slam it on Kyle Lowry, and then kind of got knocked down. So what were your thoughts on these last 4 games, and what do you think so far?
I'm going to keep it short and simple, just because I do want to move on to the Jews and talk more about J.I. Again, we started so well. We started playing basketball in a way that, honestly, it felt unreal. I'm like, this cannot be our Magic team. It's too good to be true. Scoring 128, 132 points in back-to-back games, blowing both teams out. But then again, we did predict, and I actually predicted last week that we were going to win those 2 games. Actually, you too, Justin. The 3 of us predicted those 2 games to be wins. So that was expected. Unfortunately, losing J.I., then we turn into the better teams, the Pacers, the Raptors. And like you mentioned, we look nothing like the team that we looked like 2 days before. We were spanked by 20 by the end of the first quarter in both cases. And then after that, we kind of kept up, tried to make comebacks, and it just didn't happen. But in the process, losing MCW, losing Gordon, it was too much for us to handle. And on top of that, I think mentally the team hasn't gotten over the fact that we lost J.I. still once again. Two tough losses there. We have a tough game against Philly Friday, another tough one on Sunday against the Celtics. So I'm a little concerned about the team right now. But again, we started so well. The potential is there. It's just, can we keep it going now to finish the season and, of course, into the playoffs?
Orlando is a team that, because we're young, I think we're impacted a lot. And I say we're, but the team is impacted a lot based on narrative. And I feel like I'm starting to see that. Starting off the first 3 games of the seeding games and scoring 120 and above is super impressive, especially for a team who the entire first third of the season, the criticism was we couldn't break like 100 points. So it's impressive to be able to score 128, 132, 120. What I noticed from the Raptors game, though, is that, so first of all, we only lost by 10 points, right? 99-109, which is not bad considering how badly we played that entire game. But one thing that I noticed is Coach Clifford, when he was interviewed for the Pacers game, and he was asked about what his game plan was for the Pacers and Toronto, because it would be a back-to-back, he specifically stated that they take a one game at a time approach and that they don't necessarily look at who the next opponent is until it's time to face the next opponent. And I think that probably contributed to the Magic losing. I think when you don't necessarily devise a game plan for a team until it's time for you to play them, I think that there's certain things that you may have missed that you didn't account for in your game planning. And I think that could have contributed to, Orlando losing that game.
Yeah, I think it's tough because a team like the Pacers, where they're kind of on the in between the 4th, 5th, 6th seed, around there, right? They're a team where we would imagine that the Magic should be at right now. We imagine that we should be where they're at. And I think that for the Pacers, that game was a really good test to kind of see, if we're legit. And we kind of missed the mark, man. I feel like, we really got destroyed by TJ Warren. I get he had a big game of 50-plus points. I get that he had a 30-point game afterwards. Like, I get that he's playing better, right? In my opinion, he's still worth cash considerations. Like, I'm upset that we really got stomped by TJ Warren. At the same time, it is what it is. We took a hard hit by the Pacers and the Raptors. We obviously got hit by the injury bug, but we can't sit around and cry about it. We got to go out there and do something, right? So transitioning into the juice. Jonathan Isaac tears ACL on his left knee. He's out for the remainder of the season and all of next season. So what exactly does this mean for the future of the Orlando Magic with no Jonathan Isaac?
So he's presumably out for the rest of next season as well, right? There hasn't been an official statement made saying that he is out of the 2020 and 2021 season.
Based on most recent ACL injuries, it's 12 months recovery. So if you put that into perspective, that means that he'll be coming back sometime August of next year. By then, the NBA Finals are going to be playing. So we won't see J.I. next year.
And knowing this front office, how they're so careful with their players,
it might be 2 years before you see J.I.
it might be 2 years for sure.
No, but yeah, so that injury was I was telling you guys before, it didn't really hit me when J.I. got injured, because I think it's a combination of the fact that he's been injured before, right? His last injury was a knee injury. And we've kind of gotten accustomed to seeing J.I. injured, which sucks to say, but it has been the reality for the time that he has been in Orlando. And then Al, I know you're going to bring this up as well, but Al brought up, the similarity between J.I.'s injury and Derrick Rose's injury, and that they were both kind of performing a pro hop, if I'm not mistaken, right? And they both got injured in the same fashion. It sucks to see, man. J.I. is so young, and he's one of those guys that, he was criticized for standing up during the national anthem, and then he explained that it was because of his religious belief, right? His belief in the gospel being kind of the salvation for the world. And to see somebody like that get injured again, it's just heartbreaking. But what I saw from J.I. that was motivational was just his perseverance, right? His attitude about the entire injury, and knowing that, there is a bigger plan for him, and not allowing this setback to kind of dictate and determine what his mind state is. And I think that's humbling from a fan perspective. As a man, it's humbling to see somebody be, that kind of humble and self, like centered and focused in what it is that his mission is. So all of those things combined, I just feel like J.I. is going to come back, and he's probably going to be, a strong player. I think a lot of it is mental. Like, obviously the physical there's an impact. He tore his ACL, but I think a lot of recovery and gaining mobility and doing those things through physical therapy is mental. And if there's anybody strong enough to do those things, Jonathan Isaac is the guy.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, like you mentioned, and that was the game that I was a virtual fan, and things kind of went from we're celebrating, we're having fun, we're beating the Kings by 20 plus, the bench is in, Markel is playing well, so is Ji, and then you see him fall. And man, again, when I tell you, it was kind of nice to be in that room with all 20 other people watching the game all at once, because we all reacted the same way. My reaction was I put my head down, I held my head for about 5 minutes, and I legit did not move for 5 minutes. Unlike Justin, I knew, like, I don't know what it was, but I knew the way he landed, how he fell and grabbed his knee right away. I just knew. I'm like, oh crap, here we go again. Like, we just lost him again. My initial reaction was he heard something that he had heard before, something similar to his previous injury. But man, once I saw the stretcher coming out and all this stuff, oh, I'm sorry, not the stretcher, the wheelchair was brought out, I'm like, this is not good. And then, of course, the reaction of the teammates. So he must have said, I heard something pop or something along those lines, and people just knew at that point what that meant. But to answer the question, I mean, it's tough to say. The Orlando Magic, I think, rely heavily on what J.I. can bring to this team. Before he went down in January, we were not playing our best basketball at that point. But you can definitely see when J.I. is on the court, man, and now with Markel playing well, this team is different. You're pushing the pace, you're attacking, and that charge is being led by these two young guys that are 22 years old. The future, just all of a sudden, you want to watch the games to see what these guys are going to do every single night. All of a sudden, you take away half of that. And now you say, okay, Markel is back on you again, but you know we have limits. There's a limit to how good we can be without J.I. So to answer the question, the only positive that I thought of this, which kind of sucks in a way, is the financial aspect of it. It reminded me of Stephen Curry with the Warriors when he first got hurt, all those ankle injuries, and the Warriors brought him back at a cheap contract. That allowed them to go out and get Andrew Bogut, that allowed them to go out and get Andre Iguodala and keep building around the young team. When Steph came back 100% healthy and never got hurt again, that team just blew up and became the Warriors that we know. So that could be the only positive here, is that we can bring back J.I. for a $60 million contract instead of 110, 120, 100, whatever that number was going to be for him. And we can build around now, again, the young guys, and have a veteran come in now that can help us with hopefully some shooting, because we need it badly. But I mean, right now, as we're talking about this, man, it hurts. Thinking about it right now, the three of us, it's painful because we, like you said, Justin, we know how amazing of a guy J.I. is. And we saw his stories on Instagram today. The guy is super positive, going to physical therapy, doing all the right things day one. I mean, again, as a fan, it sucks, but you couldn't be prouder of the way he's taking it, how he's handling it, because it is not easy. But I definitely expect him to be 100% healthy when he comes back and help the team in the way that we know he can.
I think the bright spot of it all is the fact that he is in good spirits, like you mentioned. And for a person that stood up when everyone was kneeling and had the platform to be able to tell the national media that it was due to his faith, his religious beliefs and whatnot, and then for the game after, for him to have a knee injury, that can really shake up anyone's faith, and for him to still stand strong on it, really goes to show the type of person that he is, how strong he is, and his leadership capabilities as well. So, I mean, prayers to J.I. for sure. When he went down, I kind of feel like the whole entire city of Orlando just went quiet for a second, and then it kind of followed up with every single curse word in the vocabulary of the English language, right? Because mm-hmm. I was upset. We were texting back and forth. It was just a really upsetting evening, especially in a game where everything was going our way. Everything was perfect. We were hitting every shot. We were destroying the Kings completely. If you were even watching the Kings social media, they were clowning them own self. They were, they knew that this game was a wrap. And again, for it to end the way that it ended was really tough. Him holding his knee, him being carried out in a wheelchair was really, really tough to watch.
Yeah, I think what epitomized the significance of J.I.'s injury more than anything was just how shaken up AG was, talking to Dante after the game.
Right.
It was just, it drained the energy out of everyone, because when you're on a team and you have a guy who, again, has suffered through injury, and for his return to be as spectacular as it was, it was just incredible to see, and then to lose that same guy on a night where he's having a good game that he has been having, it just sucks overall.
And then it doesn't stop. So, the following game we end up losing MCW, and then Aaron Gordon goes out the following game after that. So, Gordon, they're actually taking day by day, so he's not out indefinitely or anything like that. So, it looks like they're gonna rest him up a little bit just to make sure that it's more precaution based. But MCW is still planning to be out. How much are we gonna miss MCW? How much does that hurt our second unit? And then, what are your fears with Aaron Gordon?
Man, I think MCW is that one guy that we have that is going to give you 120% effort every single night. And when you're playing these games that mean something, you're heading into the playoffs, you want to have these guys 100%. Those guys that are going to battle, the Wandus and MCW. But especially MCW. He has a larger role in the team right now. He's going to be missed heavily. I mean, hopefully he can play tomorrow. I don't think he's out officially of the game against Philly or the Celtics. Gordon, though, scary because it is a hamstring, and hopefully it's only precautionary that they're doing this. But it does concern you because he does rely on his athleticism. He does rely on his speed. And if you guys have had a hamstring injury before, that limits your ability to move around and jump around. So hopefully they're okay. Thankfully, it was nothing worse because when Gordon landed, like Justin said earlier before we started recording, I really thought it was his knee. And I'm like, oh my God, we cannot lose AG and JI in back-to-back games to knee injuries. But hopefully they'll be back soon, healthy and ready for the playoffs.
So AG was driving to the lane. It looked like he was going to slam it all over Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry makes a non-basketball move, hits Aaron Gordon on the arm, almost cocks his arm back, slaps him in the arm where the ball wasn't anywhere near. Kind of looked like he almost tried grabbing his arm and really gave him a really tough foul to stop him from dunking on him. Justin, you had mentioned that you didn't really feel like that should have been a flagrant one.
Yeah, I don't know. The more times I watch it, I feel like my perspective changes back and forth between yes, it was, no, it wasn't. Kyle Lowry did jump. I don't know. His arm wasn't fully raised, but then also the ball was on AG's left side when he was going up, so it felt like Kyle might have over jumped and then was trying to readjust. I don't know. I don't know what Kyle Lowry's intentions were. I know that it was a bad foul, regardless of the fact. I just don't know if he was intentionally trying to hurt AG, or if that was just a byproduct of sloppy defensive attempt. I really don't know which one it is because I'm not in his head. But initially, from looking at it, I didn't think, Kyle Lowry's purposely trying to hurt Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, I think Anthony, me and you both kind of feel different about that, and for good reason. I think Twitter was going off. Everywhere that I've seen the play, the comment section afterwards are, going off on the fact that Lowry, it was a dirty play. There was no intention to block the shot. There was no intention on stopping AG and contesting the shot. It was a simple matter of fact of hacking him, which understandable, but not in that matter, man. I mean, the guy's in the air, no balance whatsoever, going for a big dunk.
So are you saying that Kyle Lowry analyzed the situation, understood that AG was in the air, and attacked AG?
He understood that Aaron Gordon is the people's slam dunk champion, and he wasn't trying to be on no one's poster. That's what he understood.
I don't think he meant to hurt him. Like, I don't think he meant to say, hey, you're going to land it and, have a major injury. But I think the foul itself was uncalled for. In a play like that, you either contest a shot and go straight up for the block, or you let the guy go at that point. But you don't just throw a haymaker and hope to just hit the guy. Because, again, AG's a big guy in the air. Just not a safe place by any means. And, of course, the refs called it a flagrant one. In my opinion, it should have been a flagrant two. And, I mean, you saw how even Dante Marcatelli and these guys were on Twitter afterwards. Like, they were not happy at all at that play. AG himself was trying to go after Kyle Lowry afterwards. So that tells you a lot. The Magic are not known to react in that fashion, but the play called for it.
So I think that's a good distinction because just then, like you said, I don't think Kyle Lowry was purposely trying to hurt AG. I think that AG getting hurt was a byproduct of Kyle Lowry being irresponsible with his block attempt.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, the the act doesn't have to be on purpose. So the definition of a flagrant one is a flagrant foul is a personal foul that involves excessive or violent contact that could injure the foul player. A flagrant foul may be unintentional or purposeful. So
right,
it's not like Aaron Gordon's injury from that play was his arm where there was contact from Kyle Lowry. It's the fact that AG was mid-air. And when a player is in mid-air and with that much force and that much contact, it's really unpredictable, the situation, because there's no balance, there's no control. Now you have a player that's in the air, no control. He ends up falling hard, and that's where his leg kind of extended high, and then that's where the injury came from.
Yeah, and that movement that he made, in which he hurt his hamstring, was to try to get some balance while he was in the air, and that's what led to that injury. So again, it could have been worse because when he landed, like I said, that knee didn't land 100% safely either. So imagine that. Imagine if in that play something bad happens in his knee. So thankfully, it was only that. He should be fine for the playoffs. But man, again, we just cannot catch a break right now.
Now, what I love to see was the bark from Aaron Gordon afterwards. Like he didn't care. He was trying to go after Kyle Lowry. Obviously, there's a big size disadvantage. Kyle Lowry was trying to tell him, you can come meet me in my room, blah blah blah. Listen, Kyle Lowry doesn't want that problems from AG.
No.
All right. One, no, he just doesn't. Two, you should never give another man your room number. That's number 2. 3, AG, the play after, demanded that ball, took the ball down the low post, bodied his way into the paint and got his scoring. So I'm actually looking forward to see angry AG, because angry AG is a problem, major problem. So with that being said, we're gonna jump into our pass or shoot. Obviously, we've had our not necessarily a rivalry with the Raptors, but we've had our share of back and forths. So, are the Raptors in the Magic head? And should we aim to finish in the 8th seed instead to play the Bucks? Should we be avoiding the Raptors?
So if you listen to our recording last week, I said I wanted to face the Raptors, right? And we had we had a healthy team, number one, but we had JI at that point. All of a sudden, I'm going to flip the story 100% and do a 180 here. Just because watching the game yesterday, and our announcers said this multiple times, it just looks like the Raptors are in the Magic head. It seems like whenever we play them, Vucevic already knows I cannot play against Gasol. We know we cannot have anybody out there guarding Siakam. So to answer your question, yes, I'm going to shoot on that. I think that the Raptors are in our head right now. We cannot find a way to beat them. When you take away Vucevic, who's our number one scoring option, and he becomes not useful, to say a nice way, then what do we have? We have a game like yesterday in which we score 85 points, 90 points, and that's not good enough in today's NBA. You're not going to win that game. So if I was the Magic, honestly, just to try a different look, something different heading into the playoffs, I would not mind finishing in the 8th seed. We don't have Isaac. Let's play the Bucks and try something different.
So it's funny because last week I said I'd rather play the Bucks, right?
You did. You did.
And then I watched the Bucks versus Miami today, right? And Miami was outplaying Milwaukee in every sense of the word, right? And late in the fourth quarter, the Bucks go on a 20-plus point run on Miami. Giannis gets entirely unleashed, unstoppable. This man is spinning around defenders, taking 2 steps and just slamming it, grabbing alleys and slamming them. He just looked unstoppable. And that was against Bam Adebayo, who is pretty athletic, good defender, good scorer. And he couldn't do anything against Giannis when Giannis was actively trying to get his bucket to get the Bucks a win. After seeing how badly we played against Toronto and only falling to them by 10 points when they had a healthy roster, everybody was playing for them. I don't know. I think I'm back on the Orlando versus Toronto wagon. It's so crazy, right? Because I think that just goes to kind of further detail how up and down this Orlando Magic team is. How sometimes we can look so great. They're like, you know what? I'll take our chances against the number one team in the entire NBA. But then other times it's like, okay, well, obviously our defense is struggling, and we don't want to go against Giannis. So this week, and it might change again next week, I don't know. But this week, I'm liking our chances against Toronto in the playoff series.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we were terrible against the Raptors. Terrible. We played bad, and we only lost by 10 points. I do not want anything to do with Giannis. To me, Giannis is still the MVP of the league, still one of the best players. Like, you do not want to go against a player like that in the first round of the playoffs, period. And I feel with the Raptors, they have a lot of really good role players. I feel Pascal Siakam, although he's an all-star, I still don't see, like, I don't see us. Granted, they're a better team. They are really well coached. I just feel like we have a better shot at the Raptors than we do Milwaukee. And this is against, a team where we shot 26.8% from the three-point line against the Raptors. We, for the most part, we do a better job at shit. Evan couldn't hit a shot. Terrence Ross couldn't hit a shot. We were just playing terrible all around, and we didn't lose by that much. And that's without AG in the second half, who barely played in the second half because he got injured. And that's without Jonathan Isaac. Obviously, he won't be a part of our roster going to the playoffs. But I feel like, we can definitely still compete with the Raptors. Will we win? That's a different story. But I'm definitely sticking with Toronto in the first round of the playoffs over Milwaukee.
I'm with you as of right now.
Now, with that being said, and Justin, you're going to really like this topic. So, pass or shoot, would the Magic, because right now there is a player on our roster that is struggling heavy, right? And it kind of feels like it's been a struggle for a very, very, very long time. Out of our core, so when I mean our core, I'm not talking about J.I., I'm not talking about Markelle Fultz, I'm talking Evan Fournier, Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon. Out of those three players, not even out of those three players, Evan Fournier, if the Magic didn't have Evan Fournier, would we still make the playoffs? Or would we miss?
So obviously this isn't a surprise to everyone, my fandom for Evan Fournier, but I think we would miss the playoffs without Evan Fournier.
You're crazy.
This is because when I think that the fan base sometimes is guilty of being prisoners of the moment, and I think it's easy to put the blame on a player when that player specifically is struggling and not kind of analyze the entire team and how they're playing together. But when I look at Evan Fournier's season stats, I'm looking at 18.4 points per game, shooting 46.8% from the field, 2.6 rebounds, 3.2 assists. I don't know. I don't see him being a problem overall. Is he struggling right now? Yes. Are we 3 games into the seeding games after being off since March? Does that play a role into his physical fitness and how he's keeping up? Of course. He's the type of guy that shoots threes a lot, and that takes, kind of leg power. It takes conditioning. It takes a lot of different aspects of the game that aren't as simple as, oh, your shot is just gone. So I think the longer the Magic play, the better Evan will be. And I think he'll prove his value like he has done since he's been here. Evan is one of those guys, as much as we want to hate on him, he had a down season last year, but every year he's progressed statistically while playing for this Magic team. So I do think if Evan was not on this roster, the Magic would struggle to make the playoffs.
I'm going to disagree. So I'm going to pass on that. And just based on facts, I mean, when we've seen Fournier not play, the Magic have a winning record right now. And not for nothing, but I mean, on the defensive end, he's struggled big time this season. I don't know, like he has his moments where he plays good defense and he looks like he can compete on the defensive end. But in the bubble specifically, he has not been giving a damn on that end of the floor. Somebody on Twitter said yesterday, James Harden's slight difference. Like people are just blowing by him. If you told me that we put Ane Wandu a Terrence Ross slides into the starting 2 position for the Magic, I don't think it makes a significant difference. Like, I feel like our team will look the same. The effort will be there. Now, our shooting is my only concern. Evan at least is a threat to shoot a 3-ball. But if you put Ross in there, he can hit that 3-point shot. So I don't know. Like, I think what he brings to the table as a player, it's not enough to impact us in a negative way that we will miss the playoffs.
So I'm just trying to understand. So you're saying we could replace Evan with Terrence Ross in the starting lineup, right? And then what? Just Evan come off the bench, or is Evan no longer on the team? Because if Evan is no longer...
we're talking about just the player not being with the team anymore. So if you take away Fournier from the Magic completely.
Yeah, if you take Fournier away from the Magic and you put Terrence Ross in the starting lineup, what happens to the 15-plus points that Terrence Ross gives you off the bench in combination with Evan's 18? Like, I understand that there's frustration as to who Evan is as a player and what he has been producing. But when you look at his stats, right, and you compare it to other shooting guards in the league, there's not that big of a difference. So it's like, you get rid of Evan, you replace him. Who is somebody that would come to mind to you to replace Evan Fournier on this roster? If you say Terrence Ross for the starter, okay, who do we bring in to play shooting guard off the bench?
JJ Redick, Seth Curry, Joe Harris, heck, Jamal Crawford for 1 year. Anyone that has a heartbeat and can shoot the 3-ball. Like,
interesting.
I just feel like...
So anyone with a heartbeat who could shoot the 3-ball, which is exactly what Evan Fournier does. None of those guys are statistically better. I'm talking about from a meaningful perspective, better than Evan Fournier. So I'm just confused. I think that there's a narrative about Evan on this team, and I think people follow that narrative because it's easy to do so, especially when you're seeing him currently struggle. But when you look at Evan's career throughout his time in Orlando, there has to be more respect given to this man.
I don't think it's just a narrative that Magic fans just created out of the blue. I think a lot of it has to do with this player has been with us for 6 seasons now, and we haven't been that great for a majority of the time. I think it's no matter how you look at it, you still look at Evan Fournier as the player that Rob Hennigan chose over Victor Oladipo. That's what it is. You add that also with the amount of money that we're paying him, and you have now expectations of Evan Fournier to ball out on a consistent basis. Now, if we're talking about will we make the playoffs without Evan Fournier, I think so. I think between him, Vucevic, and Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier is the odd man out. And it's not just because his contract is coming up. It's not because we pay him an X amount of money. I just find that this team is way more valuable with Aaron Gordon and Vucevic on the team more so than Evan Fournier. Now, I'm not discrediting his 18 points a game that he's averaging for this season. I'm not discrediting the fact that he's averaging shooting 40% from the 3-point line for the whole entire season. I'm not discrediting that at all. But if you're asking me if we would still make the playoffs without Evan Fournier, hell yeah. Obviously, you're going to need to find a replacement. But next man up, I feel like Terrence Ross, he still is able to contribute on a basis. It honestly does depend on who we bring in to kind of help out the second unit. But I'm me personally, I'm tired of Evan Fournier. I'm ready to move on, boy. Like, give me somebody else. And listen, I was on the wagon in the beginning of the season where I was surprised, like, Evan Fournier is balling out. There's not too many shooting guards out there that's better than Evan Fournier. But at some point, you have to try. I would find it very, very discouraging and disappointing if we go into the NBA draft and we don't get our shooting guard. Very, very disappointing. Because at some point, you have to look at our roster and you have to make a decision. And I feel like this front office hasn't done that yet. They haven't made a full decision on what it is that they want to do. And the time's coming. It's only a matter of time. Yeah,
and I mean, if you make the decision to again, move on from Fournier, of course, you got to get somebody else. We're not going to just trade him for nothing or give him up for nothing. So that's the scenario that I'm playing in my head, is if you replace him with someone else to come off the bench or whatever it is, like you said, and I don't see a reason why this team will not make the playoffs.
And don't get me wrong. Evan Fournier is a baller, right? At the same time, I'm sure that he's willing to look other places also. Like, it's at some point you got to realize that, hey, the relationship ain't working, and we both need to part ways. Bye.
Oh man, I think that's the point though. We disagree on whether the relationship is working or not. But I was letting you guys know earlier in our group message thing is if we had guys who could contribute offensively on a regular basis, the emphasis on Evan Fournier not dropping 22 plus points per game would be less. The fact of the matter is that we have an Orlando Magic team that is struggling offensively, regardless of the fact that we scored over 120 points over the last 3 games. We are struggling offensively. That has been one of the criticisms of this team for a long time. When you place the offensive burden on your shooting guard, right, and there's, with the exception of Vooch, everything else you can't count on because it changes dramatically from game to game. It's like, is Evan the problem, or is the offensive production for the entire team the problem? And I think that's why that's why I refuse to say that Evan Fournier is the problem, because when you look at the stats, like I was saying, Evan is toward the top of the scorers on this Orlando Magic team season, in and out each season. So I don't understand the narrative. Do I understand that when you have a player somewhere for 6 years and you're not getting any closer to title contention, then changes have to be made? That's an argument that I am willing to concede to. But the idea that Evan Fournier is not, a good player or a high level player, I don't buy that for a moment. I don't think that's true.
And for the most part, you have fans that they talk trash and they're going to say that Evan Fournier this, Evan Fournier that. Again, at the same time, I'm not saying that he's not a good player. I'm just saying that this team it gets to a point that you have to move on. You have to make a decision. And with his contract being the one that's coming up first, I definitely think that he is that guy. But time will tell. We'll see. I always wonder what this roster would look like if we had a high caliber player where Evan Fournier, Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon aren't asked to do what it is that they do. Because right now it kind of seems as if there's a confusion. Evan Fournier is expected to be the best player on the team. Nikola Vucevic is expected to be the best player on the team. Aaron Gordon is expected to do the exact same thing. But I wonder what those roles would be if you had a player like Bradley Beal on this roster, where now we're not expecting Evan Fournier to go out and drop 25 points and then get frustrated because he's not doing it. What if he's just that player that's off in the corner and just hitting open jump shots? What if he's that player that's coming off the bench? Now you're changing this guy's role to where he would be way more effective. Because then the question could be asked, well, if Evan Fournier was playing on another team, would he even start? Is he a starting caliber on another team?
Are you asking that? Or is it rhetorical? If you're asking it, I do think Evan could start for other teams in the NBA. I think the problem is when Evan has to be a primary scorer, that's an issue.
I think we can keep going on and on about Evan Fournier. The reality is that we definitely need a go-to type player that is comfortable and is reliable to go in there and drop 20, 25 points a night with a blink of an eye and whatnot. But it's just something that we're gonna have to agree to disagree. No.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Which is funny. I'm agreeing to disagree about.
You're agreeing to disagree.
So we're good.
All right. So let's jump into the week ahead. So Friday we have Sixers. Sunday we got the Celtics. Tuesday against the Nets. Thursday against the Pelicans. Guys, we need one more win to be able to solidify our playoff berth. What do you guys see for the next 4 games?
I think Orlando does well against the 76ers, right? Because we just found out Ben Simmons is out indefinitely with an injury of his knee as well. The Celtics matchup is going to be tough. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are monsters at this point. And then Tuesday against the Nets, I think that's another game that we win. And I think the Pelicans look super beatable right now. So I think we could go 3-1 to finish it out.
Tough games. I think as we know again, two really good teams in Philly, the Celtics. Then we got a big game against the Nets. If we're really gonna go for the 7th seed, you gotta win that game. And the Pelicans by then might be eliminated from playoff contention. If that's the case, they might not be playing 100%, and it might just want to play some of the bench guys. So I think the last 2 games we win, but the next 2 are going to be tough. I do think we find a way to beat either Boston or Philly, and we end up the week, like Justin said, 3-1.
Man, I can't. I honestly, even with Ben Simmons out, just the way that we're struggling, I'm going to go with a loss against the Sixers, a loss against the Celtics, which, it breaks my heart to say, but that puts us in a 4-game losing streak. But then I'm going to say a win against the Nets and then a win against the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans, out of the teams that I just mentioned, I think they might actually be the toughest team that we played throughout this whole entire 8-game restart of the season. So I'm still going to say a win against the Pelicans. I'm going to go 2 out of the 4 and then jump into the playoffs. So just to close it out, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts have to. I don't know if you guys. I think we shared it with us here in the recording the podcast. The Mo Bamba news just came out, and we can see now why he's not getting minutes. The conditioning level is not there due to the fact that he's been dealing with some issues with COVID, and then on top of that, some tests that have come out as positive. So there's some stuff going on with Mo that has kept him off the court, practice, and that's why we're not seeing him play. That makes a little more sense now. We're hoping that he recovers soon, that he's able to join his teammates in practice and hopefully join us by the time the playoffs start. Because as much as I like what Karen Birch brings to this team, you cannot say, that Mo Bamba cannot give us anything. He can stretch the floor from us. He can provide us some rim protection. So I do hope that we can see Mo on the court before the playoffs start, if not at least in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I think some of the points that the article highlighted that were important was, so it does say that Bamba was COVID positive in June, and that the illness temporarily robbed him of his sense of smell, taste, made him unusually fatigued, and caused muscle soreness. All of those things could obviously contribute to his less than stellar play since returning with the Magic. But there's, he was struggling before then, so it's kind of hard to say specifically COVID is the reason why Mo Bamba is struggling. It's good that, he's getting healthy again. Obviously, we want all of the guys here to remain healthy, and it sucks that he did get COVID. It'll be interesting to see how he progresses, his conditioning progresses as the play continues.
Yeah, for me, it's next man up. We're definitely getting hit by the injury bug. So, I'm looking to see what we get out of Wesley Wandu, Gary Clark, and, hopefully see them kind of step up and really contribute for us, because we're really going to need their defense and their shooting. So I'm excited to see how this kind of rolls out without MCW and see how long it takes for AG to kind of get back in there and start playing again. So good episode, guys. It's going to be exciting to see what we get out of these guys, and we'll close it out with that. Thanks for listening, and peace.
Thank you for listening to the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans.
Be sure to visit our website, theozonepod.com, and remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.